We all seem to be sold this idea that being ethical is an on or an off switch, something we are or we aren't. But as with most nuanced things, it isn't that simple. This is why you shouldn't want to be ethical, and an alternative to aspire to instead. But first, I want to make a few important points to set the stage. Number one, we don't need to exploit others to live well. In fact, taking care of others is actually to our benefit. Number two, unchecked power seems alright until it isn't, and the only reliable balance for power acquisition seems to be moral development. And number three, we are capable of much more than we think we are, on all individual, communal, and societal levels, especially when we prioritize kindness and compassion. By now, I'm sure you're wondering about the name Almost Ethical, and why just being quote-unquote ethical isn't a very good standard to live by. The thinking is that we're never able to have 100% of the information in any given situation, and so therefore, we can't ever hope to make a 100% ethical decision either. In other words, without absolute information, we can't be absolutely ethical, which is typically how the term ethical seems to be misrepresented as a binary. Holding this in mind, we then have to use our critical thinking and make decisions that require considerable amounts of thought, reflection, and deep understanding of consequences from the information we have access to. Although there is a caveat to be discussed when it comes to survival versus non-survival situations. But as time goes on and we're introduced to more and more information, proportionally, we should be looking to make more and more ethical decisions too. This isn't about attaining an unreasonable perfection though. It's about sincere progress. Day by day, choice by choice, the more we learn, the more we refine. This is fundamentally what it means to be almost ethical in my mind. Although there's many more nuanced ideas that I'm wanting to talk about too, I'll save them for another time. But to give you a taste, there are ones such as a form of self-interested altruism, ethics as an art, and broadening the moral horizon, to name a few. While this may not be a comprehensive step-by-step plan to change the world, I simply want to present a different way of thinking, or maybe even just an opportunity to reflect, to help promote implementing whatever the necessary changes turn out to be. Almost Ethical is an attempt to present a thread of consideration that runs through seemingly different areas of life, rather than focus on a single domain and lose that deeper connection between them. It's not about a cause just for animals, the environment, exploitation, martial artistry, or vaguely quote-unquote making the world better. Instead, it's about what's common within each of these endeavors at the deepest level. A sort of feeling, an essence that's hard to put into words, something that one has to experience to truly appreciate. Kind of like how it's difficult to make sense of a movie just from hearing the audio of it, we seem to make a lot of the choices in our lives based solely off the audio that we've heard from others. If you don't know how to reconcile between what you want to do and what you should do, if you feel stuck because you can't decide between them, but also don't yet have a good enough gauge to know what you truly want, then I highly suggest approaching the situation with as much curiosity and humility as possible. Most of us lack an understanding of what right even means. We tend to bounce around between potential goals, futures, and identities we might adopt in pursuit of this idea of right. Using imperfect frameworks to better deal with these situations as compared to simply agreeing to the seemingly infallible answers that have been pushed onto us will help us to feel like we are, at least, in the driver's seat of our own life. But to be clear, I cannot teach. I'm both not in any position of authority, nor do I have any credentials to speak of. I don't even have a six-pack or earn heaps of money. If anything, my only claim to speak is that of an advocate, which isn't to say that I'm not actively working on those other areas too, just that all I hope to do is to help people explore themselves a little better and let the chips fall where they may. In my opinion, the kind of progress that's going to make the world better for all of us is the kind that helps us to know ourselves better and act accordingly. Each of the ideas outlined here and that I'm wanting to introduce later give us an opportunity to express ourselves, and therefore a chance to know ourselves, even if just a little bit better. I hope the content I make here will be valuable enough to reflect on and plant some seeds of change. But if not, at the very least, interesting enough to disagree with.